I'm going to get the rear wheel in the frame just to stabilise everything. I haven't got the ramp available yet, the Honda's still on it. So here we've got a collection of front rear wheel spindles and the carrier, the sprocket, stub axle, the torque arms and the stays and the brake plates. The brakes were relined by Villiers Services a little while back on both of them, and then just cleaned up roughly. And we've got new tyres on. They're Kenda Trackmasters, road legal, believe it or not. So that's what's going on them. I'll bring you back when we're over at the bike. As it's a nice day, I've got the frame out on the patio here. So I'll just put the sprocket in. Sprocket carrier, got to make a new washer for there. Just put that in, and we're just on some axle stand and a little bike lift. I've got the back wheel in now. So I've just tried to fit the wheel spindle in with the wheel in, and the spindle wasn't going through, so I just checked that in the sprocket carrier, and that's fine. So it's a little bit tight in the wheel. There we are with the back wheel in. This is an assembly of bits from various places, so I definitely needed to trial fit everything before it gets taken to pieces, cleaned up, painted a little, probably spray cans, and then reassembled. It's not going to be a restoration. Torque arm fits okay. These I'll probably just end up bluing, these type of things, rather than plating. I've got to leave that on for the brake cable. The fit of the wheel and clearance of the swinging arm is really good. We're a bit worried about that to start with. I've had to take off the fully enclosed chain guard mounts from here, so they're gone, but we won't want a fully enclosed chain guard on this bike anyway. And now that allows me to play with the rear mudguard setup and the rear loop arrangement. I'll probably find a tank and a seat as well, so I've got that to play with. I'll now concentrate on getting the front forks in. Okay, with the back assembled, I've moved on to assembling the front forks, but I've missed something in my calculations here. So I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board and find some different fork tubes, because in lengthening the stem, the plain portion of the fork tubes that's designed to fit in the yokes is up there. It's an inch too high, or the yoke's an inch lower. That's not something I'd accounted for. And the other possibility as well is putting an inch more preload on the springs inside there. So if I pull my gaiter off my little bit I made yesterday, the springs are probably too compressed, so I need to check out fork spring lengths and fork tubes a little bit before I progress any further. Unfortunately, bugger. Yeah, that's the trying to fit BSA forks into an Ariel. So for anyone who's trying to do it, that's another thing to look out for. But what I may do is just assemble it at that for now, and get the wheel in, get it as a rolling chassis for a bit, so I can work on the rear frame loop and the mudguard setup while I'm busy trying to reorganise the other things. I'll just grab the mudguard a moment. So rather than alley mudguards at £60 odd a pair. I'm going for white plastic mud guards, and I want this bike quite short on this end, so my loop may have to be quite quick. I might have to modify that a little bit more. Let me just grab the loop. Yeah, I think that mudguard's going to have to come back that way quite a bit. I think that's a little bit too short. So again, that's something else I'll have to play with. I think for now I'm going to get these this other fork in and get the front wheel in and get a sort of rolling chassis together as such. I'm not sure if I'm missing a spacer here. I think I might be. I need to check that out as well. So the BSA springs are 11¼ long, so I need to just research how long the Ariel ones are. I suspect they'll be 10¼ something along that region. I'll have to do a little bit of looking up. So just for the sake of clarity there, you can see where the taper at the top is for in the top yoke comes down, and then there's a distinct step where this tapers away again to the plain portion where the seal runs. And normally with the BSA yokes, the bottom yoke would sit in that area there, but with extending the yokes for the longer headstock of the Ariel frame, the yokes sit in there on the narrow bit, which starts off at about 40 thou less on the diameter than that portion there, and then tapers away as well. So I need some Ariel fork stanchions, I presume, where that plain part comes down lower than there, and I've also got a measurement of the spring as well that I think needs to be an inch shorter. For those unfamiliar with how these external fork springs on British bikes assemble, this damper rod, or top nut shall we call it, tool, screws into there, into where the fork top nut would be, top bolt, like that. And then you can pull up the fork tube by putting a spanner onto that part and slowly winding that up, thereby compressing the spring at that end until you're in the taper at the top here. I'll just try again with my spring cup fitted. Forgot that one. So now, as I get closer to there, I'll tighten up into the yoke, and you've probably got to just align it a little bit. Just tap the whole thing over with a hammer and mallet slightly, so you can be sure that the fork tube is going into the taper. The Haynes manual says something about using a broom handle, just like they did for their removing damper rods on Japanese bikes. I can only imagine that there was an awful lot of people in the 50s and 60s and before who really struggled with this part without making some sort of puller arrangement, effectively a spring compressor. What I've done for now is I've put a couple of little pieces of shim steel in there, just so I can just nip the pinch bolt up at the bottom, and I don't run out of slot. then I can now slacken off my damper on assembly, I'll get the name right in a minute, my fork assembly tool, remove that. And we can put the top cap nut in and washer. I'm not putting any fork oil in for the time being because I know I'll now take them apart again. So slipping. There's another BSA service tool that does this because the nuts are very thin and the chamfer on the spanner means you're only half onto the nut. We want to socket with the chamfer sort of turned off. Then I can slide my gator up onto those cups that I made yesterday. Now I did think about getting some Spitfire headlight brackets, as they're still called, even though they've not got the ears on the headlight, and put some of them up the top here. I'll see what to do, because I've got to do something with those plain bits there, probably even some more small gators or something. I'll see. I'm going to temporarily get the wheel in now, so I've got a rolling bike. Right, after a bit of fiddling, wheels in. Now there's a few bits I've got to sort out here. The wheel spindle is obviously too long, but just like the fork legs, the plain portion that the fork is supposed to clamp to is a bit too far this way, and we're onto a slightly wasted bit, slightly thinner bit there, so might need a different fork, different wheel spindle. The other one is the torque arm is, if I tighten it up at the back here and tighten it up here, it pushes the wheel that way. I've got some spacers in there, some washers behind there, but I've got to play around with that. I don't know, I've probably got Ariel wheel parts and BSA forks here rather than a matched set. As I say, this is very much a bit from different sources, but overall it's not looking too bad. The wheels sitting quite central there, plenty of room in the forks for the knobbly tyre, and we're starting to look a bit like a bike, rolling chassis anyway. I'm going to get some handlebars on it now, just so I can steer it a little bit. Okay, that looks different. I've got to, as I say, sort out that front wheel, sort out the rear frame loop, sort out springs and fork tubes. Obviously, ultimately, it'll be stripped and painted a little bit, but I'm not going mad with it. It's the same as the wheels, they've just been cleaned up a little bit and had some Amorite put on them. It isn't a restoration, as I keep saying, so I'll look out for some more bits, a tank probably something like a C15 one or something centre bolt fixing, and a single seat, just so I can get a proportion for the rear frame loop area. And I've got to sort out a front mud guard and possibly how to mount it. Probably be high level under there. I don't know yet, we'll see. I'll almost certainly have to put a brace across there. In fact, thinking about it, I bet that's why that's in. I bet the mudguard bracket would have gone behind there, so there would have been spacer on it. That would explain that a little bit. But yeah, all in all, looking kind of how I expected it to be. So that's it from me for now, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.